For Timeout with Coach here, Coach's Timeout in Brazil, Indiana. Tony Harper's alongside me. We're going to talk to Greg Barrett. I'm Herb King, and we'll have a great time talking a little bit of football in the Wabash Valley today. And when we look at this, Greg Barrett, who is the president and founding president, I remember we were at that meeting together, weren't we? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So, of the Wabash Valley Football Coaches Association. Greg's recently taken a new job. We'll get to talk to him about different things that have gone on. Just to give you a background for Greg, the last 3 seasons, he's 25-6 at South Vermilion High School, where he's won a couple of Wabash River Conference championships, 3 in a matter of fact, in the previous about 7 years. He has a 110-63 overall record, and we get to talk about all kinds of things, including a little bit of family, so I'll turn that one over, and I know Tony wants to talk to you a little bit.
Well, I go way back. I'm the oldest guy at the table. But your family, your mother and dad, set the foundation for your whole family, and basically, if there's sports royalty in the Wabash Valley, it's the Barretts. Okay, I first came into contact with your dad. I'm short, and whenever I was a basketball player, and I was pretty good, but when I was a freshman, I had 3 guys in my class who were 6'5" or taller, and so the coach, Pete Chalos, who ended up being mayor of Terre Haute, said, Tony, he says, you're a good athlete, but he says, you're not going to see him playing though. And and the only other sport, we were a small school, Van Buren. He said the only other winter sport we got is wrestling. Why don't you try that? Well, 3 days later, I'm wrestling against Brazil, and I don't know which ends up. A week and a half later, I'm wrestling against Schulte. And luckily, I won my first 2 matches. But when it was over, your dad came to me. I didn't know who he was. Is it all right if I show you some things? I said, well, yeah, because I knew I didn't know anything. And he took the time after the match was over to teach me things because I was making one move. He said, well, you make this move so that you can do this move, so that you can do combos. I thought, hey, great, And he said, well, then when you really get good, you can do this move to do the secondary move so you can do a third move. But an opposing coach that I just beat, his wrestler, took the time to teach me to be better. You don't find that very often. And that was one of the things that made your dad great. It didn't make any difference what the sport was, who you were. He enjoyed teaching. And that was a blessing. And now it's come down to you and your brothers, and there's 4 of you in the family. Unfortunately, the best athlete of the family is your sister. But I'm glad to have you here, but I wanted to get that story out because your dad was the exception, and as was your mother. I mean, everybody says good things about your mother also, but I mean,
she kept Jay from going after the boys, I think. From what I've heard.
we weren't afraid of Dad, we were afraid of my mom.
So, but no, and tell us a little bit about your family life. I know, I lived about a block from where you grew up for about 14 years. I lived there, and people told me all kinds of different stories. Tell me some of the things you remember about your mom and dad and growing up, and you can tell the folks kind of where you grew up and what kind of set the stage for the whole family.
Well, obviously, Dad's been coach for a long time. There's 8 of us, 4 sisters, 3 brothers. All of them doing sports. We grew up in the gym.
You didn't have a choice, did you?
No, we didn't have a choice. And I wouldn't have wanted any differently. But me being the youngest boy, watching my brothers or my sisters, you're always playing football, always playing basketball, always being track and field, or baseball. I did it all also, and that's just all we do. And I think when Dad was a teacher and coach, he did make it fun. Like so we thought we had everything. You know, I wore hand-me-downs my entire growing up through high school, and I thought I had everything. But it was, you know, it's just family was what we were all about. I think it's kind of like you mess with one, you mess with us all. But I think mom and dad still their sleeves into this. And, you know, I don't know any different. People always ask me, what was it like playing for your dad? I'm like, I don't know any different.
Yeah.
You know, maybe growing up with the little league coaches or whatnot, but then going off to college and playing. But it's, you know, that's why I do what I do because of my father.
Well, you were well trained. You didn't have a choice.
That's right.
Yeah.
In my
You know,
family, you're a teacher or a coach or a cop. You know, that's about what it is.
yeah. Well, back in those days, I mean, I grew up in a small community. I'm like you. We didn't have money, no, but we didn't know we didn't have money, and everybody wore hand-me-downs. And my parents went to school with the parents on both sides, and 2 doors down and 3 doors down the whole community. All the guys had been in the military during World War II, and if you were next door and got in trouble, you got your butt beat over there, and when you got home, your parents beat your butt again because you got in trouble next door. You embarrassed the family. So, I mean, it was a different time. It was different relationships between parents and kids because they had no concept then of being your friend. I'm your parent. I'm the policeman of the house, and you're either going to do what I tell you or else. And we all knew what or else was.
That's right. Well, you know, it's funny, like, when you say that, like, if you ask any of us in my family, we will all say that we're the favorite.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember Coach Rates, Dennis Rates, who I played for in college. I remember him saying that when my mom passed. It was like, you know, the great thing about her, she knew every one of us felt like we were looking for.
Right.
You know, which I think is cool. And today, unfortunately, our kids don't get that.
No. No. And when you look at that and that building that family relationship, I know a lot of football teams, and you know this too, they all break on family. But it doesn't really happen until you can sit with that kid one-on-one and say, this is the way it's going to be, and it has to be this way because I love you, I care about you. And I may be the only one that cares about you right now, and this is what we're going to do, and this is the reason we're going to do it. And you're able to do that as a coach where some of the parents aren't able to sit down with their kids and do that.
Yeah.
And that's the important part of what's going on, I think, in our coaching issue at the present time.
It truly is, and I do pride myself on creating family atmosphere, loving each other, good or bad. You got to be good cop or bad cop. You know, and I take pride in that. Kind of change the culture of programs. You know, obviously I've got a challenge that I do too. I'm excited about, but I think it can happen because these kids just aren't raised like we were.
No, not at all.
And when you say change culture, I mean that's what we do as coaches.
Yeah.
And you know, depending on where you are and what's going on, and I've seen you change culture multiple different places, and we've done it, and we continue to do those kinds of things. I'm really disappointed that you're leaving, though. I'm just telling you for this year. You know that. You know I'm really disappointed for this year, because you know that's one of those where we talk about things, and my kids are like, "He's gone." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. He's gone." And they were disappointed too because they wanted to play you this year. You know, because we think we have a pretty good group coming in,
Right.
And we think, you know, we're going to have a chance to you know, get to you because it's difficult. Your teams are well coached. I told you when you're coming over here, I was going to ask you about a certain play. I'm still going to ask you that when we're off the air. We're going to sit down and just X and O. It's going to be a 5-minute X and O session. I'm going to ask him about one specific play, one specific guy. How do you teach this? And then we'll go on, because that's what coaches do. We steal from each other,
Oh, yeah.
and it's not just the plays; it's also how we handle things. So,
we are different than basketball coaches.
yes, yeah,
For
we
sure.
give,
Yes.
we give it back and forth. Believe it or not, even though we've been adversaries on the field over and over and over, it seems like forever.
I know.
But we're actually fairly good friends. Families are close enough. We can, when we all get together, this one talks to this one, and my daughter, I think, she would talk to your wife all day long if she possibly could, and vice versa. They just go back and forth all the time. But give me, it is. They're both named Molly, by the way. So give me the guy that you probably pattern things. If I'm saying your dad, that's got to be number one. But give me some other guys that you try to to emulate in how you coach your team and people you pick things up from?
Well, I think I've been fortunate enough to be. I've been at several stops and places. Whether it was, playing high school basketball for Coach DeGroat, you learn toughness, and discipline. And obviously I couldn't talk without him because he's still a big part of my coaching career. Obviously my father, my track coach, Coach Petcher at West Vigo also. Those were three guys that were I always looked up to. And then my brother Chris, obviously working for him. I mean, when it comes to culture, character, discipline, toughness, I mean, there wasn't a better guy coaching it than him also. And I've been fortunate to coach at Indiana State, Rose Holman. I coached out in Iowa where we won a state championship. I worked for a guy named Matt Dillon. He was phenomenal.
I've seen him on TV.
Well, not the actor Matt Dillon. That's right. Trust me, he got that a lot. But no, I think over the experiences, I've taken the things I liked, the things I didn't like, and just tried to kind of form those into my own way of coaching. And when I was assistant coach at Rose Holman, I worked for a guy, Russ Mullen, who was just a great guy, a great family man. Learned a lot from him also. And all the coaches I had playing at Indiana State, because they came and they came and they left quickly. Yeah. Because they were good coaches. They moved on to places. But I think it's just experience. And I don't know what it is. People, ask me, what it is that I do. I think I can push the kids. I think it's different today. I don't know how my dad would coach today. Like he was just, obviously he was a big teddy bear, I think. But some of the old school coaches like that, it's different
Yeah,
today.
totally different.
We've had to change the way we talk to kids. You treat everybody the same. The expectation's the same for everyone. But I think you sometimes talk to this kid differently based on where he's going home, based on when you're going home, and what that's like. I think you just got to kind of figure that out with communication and get to know them. And I think I've been fortunate to be able to, relate to kids, and I try to keep it going. And I don't know what the magic answer is, but those guys have been huge influences in my life.
Well, and then the other thing that I've noticed program-wise, it's like you're like the Pied Piper, and it's a really good thing, but you're like a Pied Piper. So, and that's a good thing as a coach. You get and go, but you bring a menagerie of people from behind. Like they all follow you everywhere you go. It's like, this guy picked up here, and this guy, well, that guy used to be my assistant. That guy used to be, this guy. I mean, that's why we have a relationship, because some of your assistants I've either taught with or coached with, or they coached for me or whatever. We've got all these people that we have in connection, but you continue those connections for multiple years into South Vermilion, and I'm assuming into Terre Haute South.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've had guys that coach with my dad, my brother, now with me, that have been with me for 20-some years. I am taking 5 coaches that are coming with me to Terre Haute South.
Oh, wow.
And I've kept everybody at Terre Haute South. I mean, we have a big staff. I'm really excited.
1, 2, 3 shift. It's
it's
like today's college. The head coach leaves and everybody goes with him.
Yeah, And I hate that for those guys. And that's, it's unfortunate. It's just kind of part of it today.
No, it is. It's part of what you're going to try to bring in your people to do the things that you can do.
And they already know what you expect, and they already know what their role is as part of the team of coaches.
Yeah. I think it helps with building a culture right away too, because you could go in somewhere and have a group of guys that haven't coached me, or maybe they don't agree with me. You don't want guys second guessing you.
Yeah.
No.
And I've been fortunate not to have that. Now I'll be honest, when I took the North Putnam job, Coach Vukovich came with me.
Yeah.
But everybody else was there, and I love them all. We're all close today. And then when I went to South Vermilion, 5 of them came with me. And I've got actually 5 coming now. It's a different group of guys. Some have retired and moved on.
Some of those guys they're even older than me.
Yeah.
And they're still going at it, They're just there.
One of those guys being a coach with him at North Putnam.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I mean, it's a cool thing. I think that does help, get that program and that foundation, started.
And that's really what it's all about. I mean, you're there, you're teaching the kids, you're giving them something, giving them opportunities, giving them a foundation of life in many cases, and giving them an opportunity to advance personally and maybe within the sport. Not necessarily within the sport, but you're setting a foundation for them and their whole life. And that's, as Herb knows, that's why I started this business. If you weren't in the donut in Indianapolis, nobody around here got any publicity.
That's exactly right.
And since then, in the last 9 years, we've been lucky enough to participate, well, with the North-South All-Star Game and with the All-Star Game that we're a part of up at Anderson University in June and stuff. We've been able to expose players from around the state and from the Wabash Valley, get them an opportunity to get scholarships.
Right.
We had a kid last year up at Anderson, a junior, came in, had no scholarship offers, none. He left that day with 2 D1 offers, and within 48 hours had 4. We've got girls that's gone to UConn and been champions, national champions, that would never have got the opportunity to be seen. But it's a different sport, but the principle is the same. The kids are invited in at no charge. They don't pay. They're invited in, the best of the best, to see, okay, this is who you're going to compete against for the next year, for the next 2 years, to get a scholarship to go on. Let's see how you do. Are you up to it? And we had 72, 73 colleges last year represented that were either there in person or watched the games on TV, and gave Braden Smith, for instance, only All-Star game he ever played in was the one that we did up at Anderson. And that's how he got seen.
So
Trey Kaufman ran.
Yeah.
Caleb First.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go down the list. Colvin. 4 or 5 guys that's on Purdue was on Purdue's team this year.
Yeah.
All came through our exposure up there.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in football. We've got some things that we've helped some kids in football get scholarships.
And when you look at it, and you know as well as I do as a coach, you're not into it's not the D1 thing that you're after.
No.
You're just after them to get better and do the things they're supposed to do and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The majority of your kids are going to be your NAIA D2, D3 kids.
Right. Yeah, and it gives them opportunity. I know you've had several of those. And with that, we're going to pause and break for our first break here. And then we'll come back and talk about maybe some of the players you've had in the past and some of the things that really, those memories you're going to take with you from different places you've been, those kinds of things. We're talking to Greg Barrett, the head football coach at Terre Haute South and newly crowned head coach there at Terre Haute South. And again, we'll be back in just a moment.
Grace Clinic Health Professional. Affordable, compassionate, comprehensive healthcare for the whole family. In Terre Haute and Greencastle.
For the Browns, contact without account. Our relationship with Riddell
Really began when we were kids, so when we started our business, it seemed like a natural fit for us.
Riddell's provided all of our financial needs for both personal and business, and we could not be happier with the level of service that we're provided.
Riddell National Bank has helped us grow our business so that we can help grow our communities with the core values that we both share. If you're looking to grow your business, Riddell is your best option.
Indiana Sports Network Cups, given to guests on Timeout with the Coach, are provided by Fearless Designs.
And welcome back to Timeout with Coach here at Coach's Timeout in Brazil, Indiana. Tony, when you look at the different things that we see with Greg, I know we want to know basically some of those players that you had throughout your coaching career, I'm going to start with the coaching one. I'm not. If you go back to the playing career, man, we'd be here all day. Because I know you played with some real cool dudes, but you coached. Give me some of the players you remember, and or the championship things, because you've been through several of them where you've had some championships in either the conference or sectionals, all those kinds of things. Give me some of those things you remember in your coaching career. I know it's been a while too, right?
Well, I tell you, it's obviously the latest memories are just being at South Vigo.
Right.
That place was phenomenal. They were really great. I mean, it's a hard decision for me to leave there because it was great. Every aspect about it. I don't have a negative thing to say about the place. Now the community bought into what we did and the championships that we won. And, we didn't get to that next level I always wanted to get to, but I go back to North Putnam. North Putnam was the same way. Had some really good teams there, some great players that went on to have some good careers, whether it was Division I or Division II or Division III, a couple All-Americans. And I think that's you could say the same thing. You don't forget those kids, you don't forget those teams, and you don't forget the ones that weren't the All-Stars either.
No.
And I think that's what's cool about getting to know them. It's about how you run your program, and but it's I could name names left and right here about certain individuals, but there's so many of them. You don't want to leave any of them out. But we'll just go back to this last year at South Vigo. What a great year this group of kids had that played for me that freshman class. To their senior year this year, they played a lot of football, whether it was because of COVID and guys being quarantined, and in the long run it really helped. But that was a big group of kids, and I had a great quarterback that was incredible throughout the year, and a bunch of great athletes around him. And they're all going to go do great things.
But see, you made the reference that it's not the kids that the great ones that mattered, and I'm going to say that's the reason you won last year.
Yeah.
It's because you asked about 4 senior kids who were playing different positions to step in and play on the offensive line, and all of them said yes, and all of them did their job, and you could not tell that they weren't linemen the previous year.
Right.
And that's the big one.
Yeah.
We had a whole new group of guys up front that some guys weren't linemen. We made it work, and they went undefeated. It was incredible.
You take a wide receiver and make him play offensive guard.
Yeah.
And he does a job. And
Right.
it's not like he's awesome. He just
Right.
does the job.
He does his job.
And we have too many people in society that are looking to be the star and not looking to do the things they're supposed to do to help everybody else out in the community or everywhere else.
Right.
And that's where you have some of your greatest impact is with the non-stars.
That's right. For sure.
They just all of a sudden decide or find out that they've got a purpose and a value, and they can make a commitment and make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliant thing. It's like I spent a little bit of time teaching in the classroom, and it's when that spark goes off in their eye, and all of a sudden they get it.
Yeah.
It's just like that's a great moment. It just makes you feel warm from your core.
Well, and I think the pivotal game for you was what, Sullivan this past year? That's the one that really molded those kids into players.
Yeah, for sure. Because the last couple of years they've got us. We lost twice in overtime. Sullivan ruined 3 undefeated seasons. They really did. 2. They ruined 2, and they were overtime losses. But that was a huge game for us. They went down there and took care of business. But that's you always got those moments in a game. It's like this is a game you got to get over the hump. We got over the hump. That just I tell my guys all the time, like, not everybody can be the starting quarterback. Not everybody can be the left tackle, the running back, whatever. But everybody has a purpose. Okay?
Right.
Once you find out what your purpose is, just be a great teammate. And then you're 1 play or 2 plays away from being a starter or whatever it may be. And I preach that all the time. And some kids might not, agree or like it. And therefore, maybe they're not with us very long. But I'm telling you what, 99% of them, once they buy into a program, it makes a huge difference. And everybody is on the same page, parents on the same page, kids on the same page, and the excitement in the air. Everybody knows you start off a great football season, it kicks a whole school year off. Yeah, it does.
Right. Yeah.
And I've been very lucky for the last several years that's happened, and that's my goal to do at Terre Haute South. And just ignore all the naysayers and all the issues that Vigo County schools have, whatever. Everybody's heard about it. Everybody knows. Who cares? You need a weight room, and you need a football field, and a bunch of guys to buy into what you're doing. Yeah. And then we can go win games. 'Cause that's the ultimate goal.
School's all about education, but sports is the front porch.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And that sets the tone.
Right.
Like in real estate, they talk about drive-by and getting the curb appeal.
Yep.
It's the same thing with sports. It gives the appeal and the draw and the attention to the school, and lets the education then prosper also.
So some of the things that I know your big challenges at South is turning that whole idea around about what it means to be a Terre Haute South grade,
Right.
and what's going on. So,
Well,
what
yeah,
do you think the biggest struggle is? Is it organizationally the things? Are you changing things organizationally, or are you leaving things kind of the same the way they've been and just changing attitude? How did you plug into this one and really start to attack this one?
Well, a lot of people do know I didn't plan on taking this job. I live in Terre Haute, and I've left this county, county for 2 decades to go coach elsewhere. I think timing is everything. Tim Herron, who was the head football coach, who's now the principal, also him and I played together at Indiana State.
Right.
He does a ton of stuff for us in the Wabash Valley. He knew it was time to go on, and him and I we had conversations, a while back about me being the head coach here, but I wasn't interested. I really wasn't. I was not interested in leaving. And it just kept coming and coming and coming, and eventually I was like, you know what, I want Terre Haute football to be good. And it's always been a goal of mine, a dream of mine to make it better. I moved back to Iowa, start the Wabash Valley Football Coaches Association to make football better.
Right.
And it has gotten better, in my opinion, in the Wabash Valley. It just has skipped the 3 schools in Terre Haute. Like, you go to the All-Star game,
Right.
it's not full of Terre Haute people.
No.
It's full of the Marshalls, the Lintons, the Northviews, the whatever, the small towns, really, the Clintons. And to me, being from Terre Haute, that's disappointing. And you want to make that better. You want people to get out there and go watch him and be excited about it and pack the stadium. And I think it's gotten better, a little bit better, but in all actuality, it really hasn't in Terre Haute.
Okay.
Around the valley, it has.
This is a question because I'm not a teacher and I'm not a coach. I can ask, and I'll take the slings and arrows. The style of football that's played in the Wabash Valley is different than the rest of the state. You go just to 30, 40 miles east, and they play a totally different type of football than what we play in the Wabash Valley. Now, is this something that you want to change, or you think there's a need for a change, or am I just dreaming?
I don't know if I agree or disagree because I don't know.
My example is Cascade.
Yes. Well,
That's the closest one.
Yeah.
And before that, he's now at Avon, but down
Robbie.
there, yeah.
Robert Gibson. He threw the heck out of the ball too. So did we at South Vermilion. So I can't say.
Well, if I can help answer part of that, when I look at it, it depends on the horses you have in your stable.
Yes.
And so he'll laugh because I'm like, there are sometimes I've thrown the ball all over the place, and there's sometimes I just turn around and hand it off, and because it's all, especially in small schools, that's the way it is. I think part of what you've inherited when you got into this one is there's a different way they do youth football, middle school football in this area. That's what's hurt at a certain point.
Yes.
Is that something you're trying to
is
change?
Is that the problem?
That's
Is
the
that
problem.
the
So
problem?
something you're going to try to change, or
which is
that
one
it?
reason why I took the job, and it's my job will be to help get middle school football started.
Okay.
And have a north side middle school football and a south side middle school football, not to where it's coming out of all the different schools, and you don't want to go to every middle school and have a team, because that's what's been happening, and that's you don't have a great youth league. I would love to have south side little youth football league.
Yeah.
and we have a South Middle School. I'd like to do the same with the North End, and who knows if these schools will ever combine, right? So there's all kinds of things here. But the only thing I can control now is where we're at and what we got.
Correct.
But I want to start South Middle School football and our South Youth League.
Yeah.
It's very simple to do.
Right.
People, I mean,
Well,
we come to places,
we
we've
do
been
it.
doing it for a long time.
We do it.
For some
So-
reason, we're completely backwards in Vigo County, and I'm going to fix it. And people are going to like it or they're not, because that's what I'm here to do.
Well,
You got to get on board, or they can go
as
somewhere
you
else.
know, I was involved with CYFL.
Right.
And played youth football league, and it made the difference at Northview.
Right.
And it's
But-
still making the difference, but still, I still see that there's a need for change.
Right. And there always is, and that's the one thing that makes it's never ever cut and dried with football. You're always going to have something come
it's
in.
just like basketball. You got to play with whatever talent you
Right.
have. I understand that.
But the organizationally is what's going on, and I've changed and you know this. I've changed every place I've been. I've helped to change youth football.
Yep.
This is the first place where I am right now that I haven't changed a thing because it was set up right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, can you imagine, like, we don't play anybody outside of our school
Right,
now,
which is
right now.
great.
Okay.
And so what that does is it keeps your numbers extremely high.
Yeah.
So when you go into a junior high, and he doesn't even have a junior high right now.
No.
So those things, and you know, when I was at Rockville, we used to play the Terre Haute, the best Terre Haute teams
Yep.
in Rockville Junior High. I mean, our junior high would play them, and honestly, I don't think we lost any. Yeah, seriously. You know, but that's not the issue. The issue is you're going to do it with your program and not somebody else doing the outside things.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you do that, he's going to be super successful. But it's going to take 3 or 4 years just
that's
to
my
line it up.
point.
It's got to line it up.
It's going to take you years to do that. So now, no pressure.
Hopefully by
How
May.
are you going to handle that in the meantime while you're developing that youth program?
Yeah. Well, you got to find the right coaches down there, which
Yes.
is something we got to, work on. Have the right middle school coaches, which is, I've already got a plan for all that.
Yep.
To be quite honest with you, I'm ready right now to start South Middle School football.
Yeah.
It's 3 middle schools you're dealing with. In Terre Haute, you got to deal with Woodrow Wilson, so you got a percentage of those going north
Yeah.
and a percentage
They
of
get
them
a
going
choice
south.
to go north
Yep.
or south.
So here's how you do that, though: is if you have a south side address, you have to play in the south team. If you have a north side address, you have to play in the north side. When you get to high school, you can choose and go where you want to.
Yeah.
But that's the only school that's that has
Right.
the issue with Terre Haute North and Terre Haute
And
South.
it's always been that way.
It's always been that way, and you've had years where even when my son played years ago, there was 42 kids on a middle school team, and 38 of those guys were going to Terre Haute North.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Even there was a year Chris went to the semi-state. They got beat by Cathedral. Those guys have played together since they were little league.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. So, like, we know this at the small communities.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a no-brainer.
Right.
I'm not listening to the naysayers that people tell me it can't happen. I'm not doing it.
No, you can't. And
Or
be
I won't be there
successful.
very long.
No.
No, you can't.
Because I don't care.
You can't be successful.
Yeah. You got to do it the right
And
way.
A person who is successful and takes on the burden that you take on as a coach,
Right.
both of you, are the type that you believe in yourself, you believe in the kids, and if people stay out of your way, you'll develop a good program.
Right. And I think if you're doing it the right way too, you're not, you've got integrity, character, discipline. Like, it's not like it's just common sense, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to figure it out.
But we also both realize that today's society is totally different too. It's the entitlement
There's not a
idea.
bunch of
Yeah.
common sense out there.
No, you got the entitlement idea. My kid's better than this kid, and why are you not playing him at
Right.
quarterback? And my kid should be the best at this.
Right.
And, we've all heard those kinds of stories, but at the same time, once the competition happens and one kid wins, that thing should end at
Right.
that point. And sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But that's really the only hard part I think we have as coaches is dealing with that kind of thing. The rest of it is all trying to mold those kids into doing the right things all the time.
It's like with the transfer portal rule that's about to happen, and I'm not a fan of it, but you've got to embrace it. It is what it is today.
Yeah.
It's like being in college. What you don't want to see his kids going from one school to the other and thinking, oh, I'm going to go in there and start. Well, no, it's not going to work that way. You still got to compete. You still got to do all the right things.
Earn it.
You got to earn it. You got to be part of the family. You know, just do what we're asking you to do and become a great teammate, and everything takes care of itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the tough part about what we're seeing. And for the most part, you're right. It's college rules the way they've just moved down, and we see that happening with all kinds of different things. How kids act, how they think they're supposed to act in public.
Yes.
And we're seeing that more and more and more, and we're having to deal with that when we're like, where does that come from?
Right.
It comes from society
Yep.
because they think that's a norm and they should act that
Right.
way, and they shouldn't. And you know, those things, even if I look at Shedeur Sanders and the stuff that's coming out even today, they're like, all the NFL guys are saying, well, I can't have him.
Drama.
He can't be in there. There's too
Yeah.
much drama.
Yeah.
We're not going to do this.
Yeah.
And that kills your team.
It does, and really, unfortunately, it's not really the kids today; it's the parents also.
Right.
You know, we're battling the parents who are trying to live vicariously through their kid instead of just be a parent, cheer them on, you know, support your coach. You know, I tell my parents at my parent meeting all the time, every year. Just had my first one a couple weeks ago. You know, the players play, the coaches coach, and the parents support. You know, we ask your kids 3 simple things. Do what's right, do your best, and treat people the way you'd like to be treated. I'm asking you to do the same thing. You know.
Yeah. And they all say yes, but it doesn't
That's
happen.
right. That's right. They look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah. You know, and to me, I see it, and you've seen it, and I'm sure you have. Little League football,
Yeah.
preponderance of the problem is the mothers.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you get to middle school and high school, and I don't see it so much, except running backs and quarterbacks. You got then the dads
Yeah.
have become a problem.
Yeah, and I had a meeting with one of my kids today, and I'm like, look, you're probably not going to run the ball much. You're going to be the blocking fullback. This is how we're going to handle it. This is what you're going to do. You're going to play here, and you're going to play here. And maybe the next year, when these 2 dudes graduate, because they're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good kids. But they're probably going to carry the ball.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen.
And you have
Just
to
thought I'd
accept
let you know that.
But it can make you a good person.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
this
you're
kid
talking.
needed to be told that up front.
Yeah, you're talking about somebody who was a blocking back, Mel Burks,
Yeah.
head of Hamilton Center.
Yeah.
That's what his job was on an option program at Indiana State.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and what did he do? He became a political leader. He became a community leader. He became a teacher, a coach, head of a great community organization, Hamilton Center. I mean, how many counties is that in?
Yeah.
12, 13
Yeah.
counties, something like that.
Football is
based
the weapon.
based on what he learned
Right.
as a football player.
Right.
We both agree that football, we think, is the last male-dominated sport that teaches young boys how to become men.
Exactly.
That's what we do it for.
Yeah.
And that's hard to explain to everybody because it's not as politically correct as what you want to hear.
Right.
But that's what we're actually trying to do, to get guys to do their job.
No.
And it's really difficult because we have too many people that don't show up to work on time, don't do the things they're supposed to
Yeah.
do. We hear about it all the time.
That's true.
But our football players are the ones that still, we think, are going to be able to show up and do their job.
They're the kids that find, you know, if you find out you're hiring somebody, they played football in high school. Okay, you know, if you're an athlete, I do think they get jobs easier because they're committed.
Sure.
They know how to work. All the life lessons that we teach in football, and of course, I'm going to say this. He would say the same. Football is the greatest sport because of how many guys it takes to get together on the same page, you know. And basically, my program, I'm sure, and he's the same way, is we want guys to be productive in society. You know,
Yeah.
that's what it all comes down to.
And
Just
football
be-
has become the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, in my lifetime, I can remember when, like the Chicago Bears, they got paid $8,000-9,000 a year, and when off season they were delivering beer or working in a factory or whatever.
Yep.
And now today, football is the premier sport in the United States.
Right.
And it grew to that, and there's a reason for that.
We're going to pause. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk about conference reschedules, all those things you wanted to hear coming from Coach Greg Barrett, the head coach of Terre Haute South. We'll be right back.
The city of Brazil was founded in 1866. By 1876, there were 2 schools, 7 dry goods stores, 2 hardware stores, 4 churches, and 5 drugstores. One of those drugstores is still there today, Lynn's Pharmacy. Lynn's Pharmacy has grown from a small neighborhood drugstore to a modern pharmacy, offering prescriptions and medical equipment with old-fashioned values and unparalleled service. You can even step back in time and visit Lynn's Soda Parlor
here at Lynn's Pharmacy, downtown Brazil.
Your All-Pro running back Jonathan Taylor here for York Automotive. Looking for an All-Pro deal on your next car, truck, or SUV? York is my #1 pick. With over 600 vehicles in stock, York has the largest selection to meet your needs. We're talking new, pre-owned, and commercial vehicles. Take it from one All-Pro to another, York has your best deal.
Shop online at yorkautomotive.com and we'll show you why we're not #1, you are.
We're not #1.
You are!
You're #1 at York.
Indiana Sports Network Cups, given to guests on Timeout with the Coach, are provided by Fearless Designs.
And welcome back to Coach's Timeout here at Timeout with Coach is what the show is called, but we really have a good time. Greg, I'm going to ask you the question. So we've all seen the announcement when both Terre Haute North and Terre Haute South decided to join a new conference. It's really not a new conference. It's new for the guys in the Wabash Valley. They hadn't heard much about it. The Sagamore. Now, the Sagamore used to have schools that were, Crawfordsville, Western Boone, Southmont, North Montgomery. Those schools were in it. They left that conference because they felt the other schools were getting too large. Those schools in that conference being Danville, Lebanon, the bigger schools.
Lafayette, Jeff.
So they actually split. And with that, McCutcheon, Harrison, and Jeff, talked about going into that. But McCutcheon and Jeff for sure, and then Harrison.
Jeff's not in.
Jeff's not in. That's right. No, that's the one that's not. But McCutcheon and Harrison, which are very similar in size and similar in makeup of what's going on. The only difference is that I saw, they kind of set up the distance, but Terre Haute schools have to travel a great distance in the current conference they're in. Do you think this school matches up well for you football-wise? I think it actually does from my perspective.
I personally think it's a great conference for us to get in. And I never coached in Conference Indiana. I coached in the MIC with my brother. In Terre Haute's on an island. We're going to travel. I don't have any problem traveling to go win games.
Yeah.
So the negative mindset of people like, well, you got to travel. Yeah, you go on to college, you're going to travel across the country.
Yeah.
So, as long as everybody's on page and backing what we're doing, I think it's great. It's a great conference for us to be in. We're going to have 3 non-conference games, which are really good what we have. I'm excited about it. I think, really, we're about, 1480 school-wise.
Yep.
Terre Haute North's about 1360, or I don't know the true numbers. They'll possibly be a 4A school next year. We'll probably stay at 5. It just depends on how it all, goes into play based off the success factor. And but really, the conference is really it's perfect for us. Yeah. I really believe so. I'm excited about it. I'm very familiar with the Sagamore. I know Coach is too. We played a lot of those teams when we were at North Putnam. Obviously, schools have gotten bigger and whatnot, but I think it's a great conference, and I'm excited about it.
Well, and when you look at it, the traveling distance is not any different what you're going to travel.
No.
It'll be the same.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to still play like JV and lower level games on Saturdays? Is that the proposal? So schedule be virtually the same. When I looked at the schedule, there were 3 teams that are non-conference. I'm like, they're going to be the same 3 teams non-conference for the most part. Yeah. You may lose one and pick up somebody else, but it'd be the very similar schedule.
Yeah, in 27 it will be a little bit different. We'll try to keep Northview, Vincennes, Lincoln, which Terre Haute South played them for years every game.
Right.
They're in the WIC now, which is really kind of cool. So they're close in conference. And then we still got 1 or 2 out there we got to nail down. I think we're going to play Whiteland in 2027 for a 2-year deal, which I'm all fan of that too. Right. We got to play 6As to get to just to prepare you for the playoffs. And it's a different beast that we're stepping into. but I like it. I really do, and I'm excited about what we got coming.
Well, and that conference, once it aligns, is going to be able to help you in all sports. You're not going to be the low end of the totem pole in all of them. You'll be middle of the pack at the start, middle of the pack or upper in terms of size. And then there's a couple of schools that are going to grow.
Right.
They're going to hit that 4 or 5, maybe
Danville
even
will
6A.
probably be 5A before it's over.
No, they should.
Yeah.
But when you look at Lebanon and you look at some of the others, they're big.
They're going big,
They're going big.
Yeah.
So I think it was a pretty good move by everybody involved. They created the new Monon Conference, which is the other one that lines up on 231.
Right.
You know, you travel all the way up. You've got Greencastle and North Bud and Southmont, Crawfordsville, North Montgomery. Those teams all the way through that Monon Conference, and they picked up Cascade, I think. And I think Cascade will be the one that leaves the first.
Yeah.
Because they're going to grow like crazy.
I think so too.
And then when you look at the other ones that we talk about, and in those, Northview could find themselves trying to get into a conference similar to this one.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise you instead of getting out of the WIC, but they're still a little bit away from hitting those numbers that would make it comfortable for them. But you know, we've seen the change all over the state. It's not just here, folks. That change started in northern Indiana and worked its way into western Indiana. And so you've seen change all the way from Bremen High School in the north, all the way down through Rochester and all those areas, and all of the conferences have realigned differently. It's really odd to see that happen, but it's kind of dominoed into almost every conference in the state.
Yeah, everything's changing, and I mean, I think it's just the landscape we're dealing with, which is like college.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It really is. It's, you know,
And I think some of the new conferences, they're not going to last long.
No.
There's going to be a shuffle.
Yeah, and part of that's just the size of schools, because they're going to, you know, try to figure out who's who and what's what, and that's always difficult, because do you let in somebody in that's a little bigger than you, or that smaller school that tries to come up? How long are they going to stay? Are they going to grow?
Yeah.
And if not, you know, so some of these conferences that have been blown totally apart, and they've reevaluated what they're doing, and that has allowed Terre Haute North and South to join into the Sagamore. That's basically what happened. They all blew apart, and there's still a couple schools out there that are kind of either independent or think they're independent almost in how they schedule things. And it's hard for an independent school in the day and age to line your schedule up so you have a good football schedule or a basketball schedule that you like or whatever else. It's just hard to do that.
Yeah.
And so conferences and conference realignment has helped. And like you said, you know, Terre Haute North and South have been in multiple conferences here. I can remember when they were in the MIC.
Yeah.
You know, and all those things, and they'd come back and all those people would say, "Oh, you don't know what it's like to be in the MIC," and then they move to the next one, and then it just happens that way. That's the way competition works.
we got to give our administration some credit too, because they were very proactive about this. Because I know, let's just be honest, Conference Indiana doesn't care about Terre Haute.
No.
And they were all going to do their own thing and just leave us hanging to dry. And I knew about this before I took this job. I knew things were going to shuffle, but they were very proactive about looking and seeking out other options, which I was too.
That's got to make you feel really good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're going into a situation you know is going to be to your benefit to be in that conference.
Timing is everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's, by doing this, we could have been stuck a year or two out from here. All those guys leave, and here we are on an island. So I'm, very thankful for those guys stepping up, and, I think they did a great job of landing us in the Sagamore.
We're going to switch just a little bit. I'm going to ask you the couple questions and just let you tell me about your family. Tell me about what's going on, because I know that's the most important part in your life. And that I know you love to talk about what's going on. You've done a lot of good with what's going on in your family, all the things that you have going on. That's one of the things I most respect about you as a coach, is how you're a family guy, how you handle your family, how you care about them, how you love them.
You didn't have a choice. As parents said, "Hey, this is the way it is."
I think Molly would have taken me behind the
you
woodshed
know.
at a certain point too.
So your wife's something like your mother?
Yes.
So tell me about it, because I know she's actually she kind of rules the roost in the family. Yeah,
That's right. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how I do it some days, but Well, you know, my daughter, I got a daughter teaching at Fuquake. She graduated last year, Maggie. And Mo graduates from Butler and next weekend in 3 years. So extremely proud of her. She's in strategic communications. She did all the social media for football and basketball. So she's, you know, she loves this type of stuff. But you know, we own a coffee shop, a flower shop, the Sycamore Farm, the Red Barn. We, you know, things are going well. We're extremely busy all the time. People tease us like, "You guys ever sleep or slow down?" No, we don't.
No.
But it's anybody that owns a business is like that anyway.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's, and I, you know, luckily I get to do what I do with football on a daily basis, and then, you know, help her wherever she needs help. And, you know, Mother's Day weekend's coming up. It's like the Super Bowl for us, other than Valentine's Day. You know, we're going to be gone because Mo graduates Friday and Saturday at Butler. There's 2 graduations she has. So it's, you know, we got great people around us that help us do those things, and you can't do it without great help, you know.
And family's got to be centered.
You're exactly right. And I definitely, now my girls would be making fun of me if they were sitting right here, for sure, throwing darts at me or something. You know, I'm the dad that takes a beating around his daughters.
Well, I understand. I had 2 daughters and a boy. I've been there. I'm going to throw you a curve, though. We're coming close to an end here. I want to know, back to football, because the last few years you've been known as the passing coach, the team that passed the ball, and your core is pretty much 50-50?
I would like to think so. I've been spoiled the last 7 years with a Garzolini at quarterback. And I think Coach here knows that. Because, you know, I completely had changed the way we did things. And like he said earlier, I'm going to adapt to the talent we have. I just happen to have 2 quarterbacks that can throw the ball all over the place. You know, I think at Terre Haute South, what I'm seeing now, I got 2 really good quarterbacks battling it out. One's really good at this, the other's really good at that, but they're both going to play at some point in time. And we have a great core of running backs.
I was going to say, you've got some speed.
We got a chance to be very successful. I just call it like I see it. I mean, I've seen over the years, but they also got to buy in. They got to be great teammates. They got to be selfless. You know, they do those things. We got a chance to be really good, in my opinion. I don't care who we're playing. I really don't. But I hope to be 50-50. Whatever's working, we take advantage of. I've never just been like, we're going to throw it all over the place until really the last 2 years. Because to me, a quick screen was just as good as a 5-yard run.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think you just got to take it. I think most coaches are that way. You kind of, I like to say I'm a system guy, but I'm a multiple offensive guy too. I like to say my roots are wing T, pretty much in shotgun, kind of like I was at North Putnam. Doing a lot more of that now, you know, with a tight end and a wing set. You know, those sort of things. Kind of, that's the fun I really like. Is running the ball, play action, power and counter like Coach loves to do.
Yeah.
I've got some dudes that can do that, especially from the quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, so next year you go into the new conference.
Yes.
Is that going to create or cause some changes in the way that you coach?
No, not at all. I could care less what conference we're in. It all still comes down to the Jimmies and the Joes.
Okay.
You know, I still think you have a base system on offense and defense, and then you just kind of work within their realm of the talent you have.
The talent is the secret. I
Yes.
mean,
Well,
it comes in cycles.
It's not just the talent; it's also the evaluation of the talent and putting them in the right places.
Exactly.
Right.
You can't just so you know, if you're going in and you're like, I don't have a guy who can do that, and I don't have a guy that can do this, so I better change a little bit of what I'm doing to make sure that I have something that's going to move the football.
Right.
And defensively, you can play any combination of front you want. 3-man, 4-man, 5-man front, doesn't really matter.
Right.
But you have to line those guys in positions that are going to be successful in, and make sure that your best kids are in their most successful positions, and let the chips fall and go play.
Well, like you said, he did this last year. Took
Yeah.
players that weren't linemen and made them linemen.
Right.
Yeah. And you
And
can
it
do that.
succeeded.
Right. And you know, and I think we learned that as
coaches in smaller levels, or
Yeah.
you know, I've already seen. I mean, I love Coach Aaron and things like he might have this guy here that I see things completely different probably.
Right, sure.
Like I look at you and you might have been playing, you know, middle linebacker and tailback last year, but you know you're you could also be playing right guard for me.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't know.
And we've been known to do that. I walked into the school I'm at now, and I walked in and I saw this kid and I went, oh my gosh, what do you play? And he's like, guard. Not anymore. Fullback. No, he's a tight end.
Oh, tight end.
That big
Yeah.
Foxworthy kid.
Yes, yes.
So and people are like, why'd you move him there? And then all of a sudden it's like he caught every ball he
Yes.
wanted, he caught. He
Yes.
made every tackle,
Yes.
did all this stuff.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
just put them in the position that they're you know, the good Lord gave you the right body to play these
That's
positions.
right.
You better put them in there and let them play.
That's right.
And don't try to make you know, something into something that it shouldn't be there.
That's right.
And that's just kind of how we do it. And if you watched several of the teams, he's done the exact same thing, because you know 7-8 years ago he was in like almost a wing T kind of thing, and then it's like all of a sudden one Garzlini shows up and he's like he's throwing every down, you know, and then the next one shows up and he's throwing even more, you know, and but that's a normal thing. And if you see that even in pros or college or whatever, you do with what you have. We can't go out and recruit them.
Right.
And we're still not legally allowed to go out and
That's
recruit
exactly
them.
right.
Just letting
Right.
you know. You cannot go out and recruit kids into
Right.
high school. But at the same time, you have to evaluate and know what those kids are capable of doing and be able to sit down and know what they're like and look them straight in the eye and can they do exactly what you ask them to do. And if they can't, then you're not going to do it with them.
Right.
You're going to do something else.
Like back to what you said about you can't legally recruit kids. Unfortunately, your program will speak for itself.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, kids are going to see that today with this transfer portal. And I'm not saying I haven't seen it happen already in Terre Haute South, but it's, you know, people can look at you and be like, oh, he's recruiting kids, he's doing, well, that's not true.
No.
I'm trying to just get my feet in the foundation.
Most
set.
of that comes from the parents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, but kids want to go be successful today, and you can't hate them because of that.
No.
But what you don't like about it is because they're doing something because a parent is disgruntled with the coach because they think he should be playing this position. That's not the right answer.
No. No.
And it makes it tough.
Yes.
It's just a
It's
really,
hard on the kid.
Yeah, and then at a certain point, you're going to see somebody show up and people show up.
Yep.
Now, no chance to play because they think they're going to do whatever they're going to do, and you know, and you know, we're not in private schools, and that's even a whole different ballgame.
Oh man.
Because if you're paying money, you expect this stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Right. That may be something that some of the schools are going to find when the transfer thing happens. In even the public schools.
Right. I agree.
It's just going to make it a really difficult
Yes.
task for coaches, even more difficult than what it already is. And at the same time, I think we'll be successful. I'm wishing you the best.
I
Because
appreciate it.
I want to see you out of there. That's good. Made my day. You know, just made my day. Not really. I mean, my daughter was like, "Did you see this?" I mean, yes, Molly. I saw that he's leaving because Molly used to work for them too.
Yes.
So my daughter used to work for him, and you know, she's even has a visor somewhere in like a closet or somewhere. She does. She has a visor.
She does.
He's given her visor, so you know, I didn't even know if she's going to be my daughter at the certain point of what this is going on. But you know, we've had a good time with different things. We talked about.
I've heard that people doesn't even know who he is if he doesn't have a visor.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't do that, man. I'd turn like
me either.
4 shades of red up here and it'd be over. So congratulations, you still have the visor.
It's not going to last long.
You got a visor that's got fake hair. I can put
Yeah.
it on so my head doesn't get burned.
Well, you know, I don't know what it is, the visor. I've always wore a visor in coaching.
Yeah.
Well, and then it kind of
it became the joke.
It became a whole thing, a joke on the Gridiron Digest, as you know, in our conference. Well, we've taken it and ran with it. So visor up, right? So my kids all show up one day, and they all have sweatshirts and T-shirts on that say visor up.
Okay.
With a Wildcat on. I'm like, I love that. Where'd you guys get that? Because they know I wear a visor.
Yeah.
And well, they told me their story. It was on the Gridiron.
Yeah.
I want to thank the Gridiron for that.
It wasn't me, by the way.
Yeah.
I did not do this. I don't post on that
And
thing.
it's become a whole thing, and it has a meaning to it. Visor up, which is vision, integrity, sportsmanship, opportunity, resilience, unity, and passion. So I got this whole thing. We just ran with it, and I'm keeping it. Like it's kind of like row the boat, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Size her up.
So and again, that's awesome. You know, last thing I'm going to ask you about before we get out of here is this, and I know you always give a plug for the foundation that you have.
Yes.
Give a plug for what's going on.
So in September we do the Tackle Cancer campaign for the Patrick S. Barrett Foundation. P.S. We Love You Fund. The foundation is kind of a different thing, but we get schools all across the country to do it. It's a great. You pick one game, sell T-shirts, raise a little money, pass the bucket, 2-minute miracle minute. But it means a lot, and we've raised almost. We're pushing $1 million in the last 10, 11 years, I think it is. But it means a lot. I know that. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. We're really happy to have had a chance to talk to Greg Barrett tonight. I know he's got a lot more things he can talk about because we do all the time. He's a great guy, passionate about football, passionate about life, passionate about his family. You can't ask for much more than that from a football coach and what's going on. We're glad you're still here in the Wabash Valley. I'm glad I never have to see you again on the other side of the field. And seriously, I do wish you the best of luck this year as the Braves go on to play.
I appreciate it. Wish you luck, and thank you guys for having me on.
Hey,
it's awesome.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Tony Harper's our producer, and if you'd like to advertise on Indiana Sports Network, you can give him a buzz. And normally he's behind the camera, but this time we got him out in front, and he can smile and have a great time. And we did. We always have a great time here at Coach's Timeout. And Timeout with Coach is our show. We'll be back this next week when we get to talk with Franklin head coach Mike Leonard, who is, again, one of our favorite guys.
One of my favorites.
We're going to have a great time talking a little bit more football this next week. For Tony, myself, Herb King, and for Greg Barrett, we'll say so long this evening. You're watching Indiana Sports Network.